Welcome to the Big O Show on the Overreaction Sports Network, powered by Believe.
Still the same damn kid from Oklahoma, same old dreams hanging off my shoulders, wishing and waiting on a shooting star for all to see.
And now your host, straight out of Oklahoma, former Buffalo Bill, Jerry Ostroski.
I'm still the same damn kid from Oklahoma.
What is going on, everybody? It is time once again for the Big O Show on the Overreaction Buffalo Sports Network, presented by FanDuel. We appreciate you tuning in. Everybody that's watching, everybody that'll be listening on podcast form later on, thanks for taking the time to consume the content of the show. I appreciate you, and I look forward to today's show. We're going to get into a little bit of reviews and previews. We're going to review a little bit of last week's unbelievable 41-40 victory versus the Baltimore Ravens. Then we're going to get into kind of a 10,000-foot view, just an kind of an outside look at this Jets-Bills matchup as we head into the week. Just kind of a quick overview of the game and what's going on. As always, folks, hit the like, subscribe, tell a friend, review the shows. We appreciate your time as always. And if you will, get in the comments. And if you have a good comment, we'll talk about it. But something I wanted to do, and real quick, at the end of the show, I'm going to fill you in on a little bit of a change, a little bit of a format change for the Big O Show. I think you'll like it. I'm excited about it, and it's something I've been thinking about doing. And we'll start that next week here on the Big O Show on Wednesday nights, 8 Eastern, 7 Central. But one thing that I do after the Bills play, I go back and I record the All-22 copy of the game, and I sit there, I put it on my iMac, and I screen capture the video. So I get that whole thing recorded, and then I'm able to go back and use my mouse kind of like the old days. I have a cowboy control, and I can review and fast forward and go back to spots and slow-mo and all those things. Much easier to control the film that way. So I go back as soon as that All-22 is available. I record it, watch it, and then what I do, just kind of a checks and balances. I've got some people that I talk to. Of course, I talked to John. John and I were very similar, almost eerily similar in our evaluations, especially with the offensive line. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But also talk to others like Joe Marino, Jeremy White, my partners on Bill Squad, Thursdays and post-game shows. And just kind of, compare notes of what we saw. And then also I go to PFF. Again, you've heard me say this a million times, folks. PFF is not the be-all, end-all of evaluations. They've got an algorithm. They got a way they do things, and it's different. For instance, if you look at PFF, everybody starts a game with a grade of 60. Anything above 60 is good. It's a win. And anything below 60 is considered not a win or subpar. But I like to take my own eyes, my own evaluations, and compare them to PFF. And there are some on here that most of them are pretty much dead on. There's a couple that are troubling, and just kind of wanted to squash some myths and some things that are being talked about in this game when we played Baltimore this weekend. Obviously, not a good performance by the defense as far as rushing defense goes. Obviously, the Bills give up 238 yards rushing on 29 attempts. That's 8.2 yards per carry, 3 touchdowns. Lamar had a lot of success in the passing game as well. Just I'm still speechless, folks, and you know this. I mean, you're probably in the same position as me. I mean, how we won this football game, it's amazing. Absolutely amazing. But I went ahead and I looked at the film, and there's some areas and some things I wanted to talk about. First one is this. We talk about the offense. And obviously Josh Allen, masterful performance, another one of those in the first two type performances out of Josh Allen, who once again solidified his MVP position from last season. But Josh was the fourth highest rated quarterback or fourth highest graded quarterback out of 32 this week, because that's the other thing they give you is comparisons. So Josh was he had a score of 87, which was great. And then you look at some of the other big performance on the offense. Keon Coleman, 6th out of 105 receivers. He had a 78.2. Joshua Palmer, a very respectable 62%. He was 49th out of 105. Shakir, 64.3, 39th out of 105. You look at the running backs. Ty Johnson was 38th out of 50 at 56. James Cook had a 64.7. He was 16th out of 50. So that's what I'm trying to tell you. That's kind of a prime example. James Cook was 64.7, and you're like, yo, that's not great. Well, out of 50 running backs, he was 16th. So you understand how they grade. It's kind of a tough grading system. You look at Dalton Kincaid, who had, I thought, to me, the bright spot of the game as far as players emerging and doing things was Dalton Kincaid. I thought he established himself right out of the gate. And it wasn't just the passes that he caught. Did a tremendous job blocking. You can see he's taken the criticism from last season, used it as a positive, trained. If we can get that Dalton Kincaid all season, if he can stay healthy, man, we've got something. He's 21st out of 66 at 63.1. Dawson Knox came in at 60.5. But the star of the show, you heard it here first, and I don't know how many times I've told everybody, the most exciting draft pick to me out of all of Bean's draft picks this past season was Jackson Halls. We haven't had a true blue power blocking tight end that can mix it up at the end of the line of scrimmage in quite some time. Well, folks, we have one now in Jackson Halls. I mean, came in with a 93.7. For lack of better terms, the kid's a badass. If you watch his film, you watch his technique, you watch the way he blocks, it's perfect. I don't have any critique for it. It's clinic tape, and that's the whole thing. That's probably the most complimentary thing you can get from a coach. If they watch you on film, they say that's clinic tape. That means if they go to one of these like Glazer clinics or Nationwide clinics, and they're going to talk about a tight end, or they coach the tight ends, they want to talk about how they teach them to block, they put Jackson Halls on the screen for all the coaches to see, because they're not going to put some slug up there. They're not going to get embarrassed. Jackson Halls is clinic tape, and it's awesome to watch. It's amazing to watch. But the area of concern I had on the offense, and what's funny is I watched it, and I was like, man, something's off. And that's the offensive line. I did not think our line in particular played very, very well. And I don't think it was the competition. I mean, they have good players, but it wasn't the fact that they were getting beat because of better players. I just felt the energy was down. The dauber was down. They didn't have that nastiness that they normally have, and finishing blocks and playing past, all the way to the whistle and all those things. And I just didn't seem right. It almost seemed like if someone told me after the game that the flu had run through the Buffalo Bills offensive line, I'd have been like, bingo, that's what it is. Just kind of a lackluster performance. And what's funny is I was on the phone with John the other day with Fina, and John goes, man, he goes, I didn't think the line played real well. They just seemed no energy, kind of listless. And I was like, I feel the same way, and I got a verification from that. So my third verification form, I go to PFF. Spencer Brown, 69.3, solid game. I thought Spencer was a little off, but Spencer was also good. I think Spencer was they said he was dealing with cramps. As a person that's got history in this whole back world thing, not me, but I've got a son that deals with it. You can kind of tell when a player's back is locked up. I'm hoping that back of Spencer's is not the issue, and I'm hoping that it was cramps. But he did play. He was the highest rated offensive lineman at 69.3. Coming in after him, as far as all the time guys that played all the plays, I won't count Alec Anderson. But Deion Dawkins, 64. Deion was the one that I could tell was kind of off. Deion just wasn't himself. Now, we all know that he loves the Jets. And that's actually, as you know, facetious. We know his hatred for the Jets, so I would expect Deion to be on full point this week in the Meadowlands. David Edwards, 55.7. That's about what David Edwards is. He plays a little bit better than that. He probably plays a little bit over the 60 number, but I don't think David Edwards is ever going to be a perennial 80, 90 guy. That's just not what he is. He's a journeyman that plays hard, plays well, big dude, has some deficiencies, but does well in our system. Connor McGovern, not a great day, 51.7. Baltimore does do some things. One of the things that Connor's really good at, if you know the players and style of players, Connor McGovern is a movement guy. He's a finesse guy. He's a high leverage guy, which is he can get out, stand tall, arm bar, do those things. When you got big, sloppy, nasty inside defensive linemen, especially head-up guys, sometimes those cause issues. Baltimore is not particularly a great matchup for him. But the one that concerns me the most, and this is the year that I would expect this guy to really kind of progress. Hopefully this is an anomaly game and that we won't see this every week. But Osiris Torrance comes in at 48.2. He was the 54th rated guard out of 65. Kind of concerning for me. Now, McGovern was the 30th out of 32. Deion 28th out of 65. Spencer 16th out of 65. So when you look at this group, not a particularly great day for the other. Now, they were effective. I mean, we scored 41 points. Say what you will. And again, this PFF is not Aaron Kromer. So I'm not telling you that Aaron Kromer's grading system looks like this. But it is a kind of an indication or a validation of what I saw with my own eyes, which was I thought they were okay, but I didn't think they were true blue Bills line level. I'll give you my thoughts on this whole thing, what we're talking about when we're done before we get lightly into the Jets here in a moment. When you look at the defense, what more do you want to say? I mean, Ed Oliver with just an absolute premier performance. You look at Ed Oliver, 92.1, dominated. It was just, it's just what he did, what you watch, folks, tape it and save it and keep going back and watching it again and again when you get a yearning to watch good football. What Ed Oliver put on film the other night was absolutely spectacular. One of the top performances I've ever seen out of a defensive lineman. But I will tell you this, as much as he got last year for not performing at that level, Ed's healthy. I don't think Ed was healthy last year. He had hamstring issues, which maybe led to some other things. Ed was not a healthy football player last year. You could see it. If you play enough and you watch these guys when they're not hurt and then when they are hurt, you can kind of see these things in giveaways. I did not think Ed was healthy. Man, he's healthy right now, 92%. Joey Bosa was just shy of 60. I thought Bosa was better than his grade. Now, granted, he gave up 2 quarterback reads, but then he got that down, made some stops. He got some pressures. He caused and helped some other things. He caused the fumble. He's only going to get better and better. And I'm excited that he is in a Bills uniform. Greg Rousseau had a big day, 79.7, 16th out of 103 defensive ends. The guy that I thought didn't play all that well, but in the PFF grades not bad, is Daquan Jones. Daquan had a 63.6. I thought Daquan was lacking a little bit in the run game, got a little bit lost and washed sometimes, but 63.6, not as bad as I thought. So that's why I go back and look at these things that kind of help validate what's going on. Ralph brings this up. Torrance weight loss hurting him. No, not at all. Weight loss in an offensive lineman like that does not hurt him. I mean, you know, it's like I used to say, when I lost 10 pounds, it's like a a lawn chair off the deck of the Titanic. These are still very big, huge individuals. So I'm not worried about weight loss with Torrance. If anything, weight loss will help him over time and over the years. Cole Bishop, the much maligned Cole Bishop, who everybody wanted to try to attack because he tried to tackle Derrick Henry when he was on the end of the line of scrimmage on the other side of the field, had to have to run across the field and try to tackle him from the side. Come on, folks, give me a break. We do these things where we pick on certain players. I felt while Cole had a couple of mistakes, I felt Cole was exactly what I figured he would be. A young player that hasn't played a ton of games and is only going to get better and better. His grade vindicated that, 54.8, a little bit below 60, but I'm telling you, he was better than most people gave him credit for. But the problem was he's playing with a group that was not very good. Not at all. Now, Taron Johnson played well, 70.3. He was fine. Benford was 61.1. The hardest thing for Benford in this game, I felt, was he was so involved in the run game, it can take away from some of his other stuff. And Baltimore puts the cornerbacks in such a bind. Dorian Strong, they graded him at 45.3. I thought Dorian did a lot of really good things. What's crazy is, other than the bogus pass interference, the holding call, not many times was I like, dang, Dorian Strong is hurting us. I thought he was more than okay. And what's funny is, here's the deal. His rushing defense was 69.9. Now, his coverage was 37.1, which is what dropped him to 45. But 69.9, he sticks his face in there and makes plays. Same thing with Benford. Benford's rushing defense was 78.8, but his coverage was 51.7. So, again, we're going to go ahead and we can attack the corners, do whatever you want. But this is where the deal is concerning. When I watched the All-22, this is where the glaring, to me, hole was, is three players. You looked at Terrell Bernard, Matt Milano, both were 29.7. And you also look at Taylor Rapp was 29.1. For this 4-2-5 to work, that can't happen. Those three guys have to be able to mesh with what's going on up front, be able to direct and all those things. I just felt they looked lost. They didn't know how to mesh that front. They didn't know where to fit. They were confused. And the problem is when you got undersized linebackers and undersized players that are built to run and move, and now all of a sudden they get confused, they don't run and move, and then they get hit. And there's many instances where Terrell Bernard catches a stray and goes down. That's where the biggest jump is going to be between week 1 and week 2, between this Baltimore defense and the Jets defense, as far as these guys playing. And this is why I think all these things have happened. This, to me, is a prime example, 100%, of most teams are not game ready week 1 because of the fact they do nothing in the preseason. Absolutely nothing. If you remember with Terrell Bernard and Milano, they treated both of them in bubble wrap, didn't want to put them out on the field and do too much with them. Rapp has been a guy that played a little bit, but Rapp has been a guy that's been hurt as well. And there were some instances that he looked like he wanted to be anywhere else but trying to tackle Derrick Henry, who he had issues with last season. So those three guys, because when you start looking at run defense, right away you attack the defensive lineman and you go at the defensive line. While I thought the D-line could do some things better, I thought they were pretty solid. I didn't think that was the issue. The issue is we did not mesh between our back end, our linebackers, and Rapp for sure, maybe sometimes Bishop, that mesh between those back end guys and then the front guys. It was off. And one thing Baltimore does really well, they are diverse schematically. They'll run zone, they'll run 3 plays of angle blocking, old school type stuff, tackle traps. And when I say tackle traps, I'm talking like wham plays where the tight end comes from the outside in and whams the tackle. Last year when we played Baltimore, the first play of the game, when Derrick Henry scored the 70-some yard touchdown in the regular season, that was on a wham play. That same play was run against us this time, but it was TJ Sanders who was in, who I guarantee you never saw that before, and they ran it for another touchdown. They do some really good things in angle and man blocking, and then they'll run zone and all the stuff they do. And then you got Lamar as well. They are an unbelievably hard team to defend. But again, while we gave up the yardage and the points we gave, and that group is in that meeting room this week saying, hey, this isn't good enough. And there's going to be some guys that have to step up and answer some pretty tough questions this week. I don't think it was as bad as people imagine, especially up front on the D-line. Now, behind it was really bad, and hopefully it gets fixed. But just kind of a quick review of the Baltimore game, just kind of grades what I saw in my evaluation of the All-22, and we'll do more of that as the year goes along. But let's move on to the Jets as we're rolling into the latter parts of the Big O Show here on the Overreaction Buffalo Sports Network, powered by Believe, and also presented by FanDuel. Again, folks, over in the comments, Cecil McDowell, Bills fan 7883, Daniel, Spin, Drawing with Joe, Ralph, as always, Joey Hatch, everybody, Bella, I appreciate you tuning in and watching. Thank you very, very much. If you look at the Bills, 1-0 Bills are going to take on the 0-1 New York Jets. That game Sunday, 1 p.m., MetLife Stadium, East Rutherford, New Jersey. One of my least favorite places to play. Can't stand that place. That game will be on CBS. Bills are 7.5-point favorites. Buffalo has won the last 8 of 10 games. They won the last 8 of 10 versus the Jets. And Jets team coming in did a pretty good job against the Steelers, scored 32 points against the Steelers, but gave up 34 to the Steelers as well. So they obviously had some defensive issues and don't think that Aaron Glenn's not working to get those corrected. The Bills obviously scored 41, but they gave up 40. So 2 games very similar. One came out on the winning end, one did not. Josh had 394 yards, obviously, last week. 2 TDs and 112 quarterback rating. The good news was, and if you remember the show last week, my 5 things that this team has to do to be successful, one of them was continue red zone dominance. They were red zone dominant again this week, 5 of 7 in the red zone. The Jets, they gave up 4 touchdowns and 244 yards to Father Time and the Steelers, and the Jets defense was only 4 of 10 on third down. So an area where, again, the Bills need to be exponentially better than they were last season. We'll see how that goes. Justin Fields, a reclamation project, and he seems to be doing well in New York. First game of the season, he had 218 yards, 9.9 yards per attempt. He had a TD, 119.1 rating. Good stuff for Fields. If he can do that and then continue with his rushing yards, which he had 12 rushes for 48 yards, 4 yards per carry, and 2 TDs, he's a guy that's hard to defend. So it'll be tough for that Bills defense. Again, another guy like Lamar that can do both things, although we know Lamar is a lot more dynamic. Again, the offense of the Jets was 7 for 14 on third down, and they were 3 for 4 in the red zone. Their wide receiver, their big guy, Garrett Wilson, 9 targets, 7 receptions, 95 yards, and a touchdown, but no other New York Jet receiver had more than 40 yards. Breece Hall is the workhorse behind that offensive line at tailback, 19 attempts, 107 yards, 5.6 yards per carry. We talked about Fields and his rushing prowess, but we're going to go ahead and, if you can't hear this again, folks, plug your ears. Plug them, because I'm going to say it. But again, this is a New York Jets team that's going to face a Bills rushing defense that gave up 238 yards on 29 attempts, 8.2 yards per carry, and 3 touchdowns. Against the Steelers, Justin Fields did a really good job of limiting his sacks, because he does bounce off the ground quite a bit, has been sacked a lot in the NFL in his short career, but he only gave up 1 sack, had 6 quarterback hits and 22 attempts. So that is the Fields performance last week, which was pretty good. Let's go back to things. Expect Jets to quick count while Bernard is still making calls like the Ravens did. That's a good observation. I know it was brought up in a few places and people have been talking about it. It's not that you go ahead and quick count all the time. It's that as an offense, you have to have varied snap counts. And the thing about that was, I don't think it was so much as the quick count catching them on purpose. I just think there was a ton of confusion in that linebacker group and in that safety group. And the thing that I don't think anybody understands is, and you probably do. I shouldn't say that. I mean, that's assuming of me, and that's not right. But it's kind of like the Bears preseason game and the Tampa Bay preseason game. When the Bears preseason game went on, we looked absolutely awful. And it was because the communication was so lousy. And when the communication is lousy and the back end of a defense that has a lot of complex stuff that the linebackers and the defensive secondary have to mesh together on, and there's no communication, I mean, it's out the window. It looks like a circus. We go to Tampa Bay, we fix that, and all of a sudden guys are playing, flying downhill, they're making plays, and it's like, okay, things are cleared up. Because if the mind is cluttered, the body can't work. It's that simple. And against the Ravens, for whatever reason, and it's not like the Ravens to me came out and did much different than they normally do, but for whatever reason, Bernard seemed off in communication. Milano was off in communication. You saw him the one time that Cole Bishop blitzed from about 20 yards away. That was a communication issue. You're standing around waiting to get calls, and next thing you know, the ball's being snapped. So do I think they quick counted them on purpose? I think sometimes. And a lot of that probably had more to do with Ed Oliver than it did the linebackers and the calls. Because what you do when you have a pass rusher or a defensive lineman that's having a game like Ed, the first thing you do in the huddle is you go to your quarterback and say, hey, we got to change the snap count. We got to move it around. We got to go on 2. We got to quick count it and not let him tee off on snap count. So that probably was for Ed Oliver more than anybody. But yeah, I mean, it's a good point, Ralph. It was brought up in a few areas, and I think that you'll see that until the Bills fix their communication issues on defense. Because here's the thing, I don't think the Bills are that deficient talent-wise on defense. Everybody's like, oh, as soon as somebody hits the street, we want to sign them. It's like Peppers. We need to sign Peppers. Well, we need to sign a coverage safety. That's like the last thing we need. We don't need a coverage safety. Carl, I appreciate the super chat. He says this: which Bills defense do you expect to see versus the Jets? The Boris Sieve that was the first 50 or the shutdown D we saw in the Ravens' last 3 drives? Good point. I expect to see a much better defense. I expect to see something more of the norm that we would see. Do I think that the Bills will ever go out, Carl, and shut teams down to under 100 yards rushing and just absolutely choke them out? No, I don't. That's not their style. But I do expect to see a better defensive performance just because everybody that hasn't played in the preseason now has played. And I know that people are sick of hearing me preach about it. And as a guy that was a vet that hated to play the preseason, you knew it was needed. I mean, it's a dress rehearsal, man. It's part of it. It's timing. It's all those things. It's like I say, I don't go play golf and don't hit the driving range before I tee off. You got to warm up. You got to get your brain moving and all those things. So it's one of those deals. And see, I don't agree. Cecil, I don't agree with you, man. Why are we trying to chase other people's throwaways all the time? I mean, he's a better coverage corner or better coverage safety than he is at stopping the run. I mean, there's a reason that the Patriots let him go. And it wasn't just money. And I'm not getting on you, Cecil. I'm just saying that's just my opinion on him. I just get real frustrated when we have a guy like, you know what? Young guys are going to need time to develop, okay? We're talking about TJ Sanders and how he's going to fix things, and we're so fired up to get him in the draft. Well, you know what? TJ had a 29.6 grade, okay? Do we want to get rid of him? No, we don't. You need to develop him. Just like Dorian, just like Deion Walker. The guys need to be developed. Bishop has not played a lot of football in this defense. He's going to get better. And you know what? At the end of the season, if he's not, then maybe you make changes. There probably will be some changes in the back end. Well, at least we would imagine, but we'll see. But I know, to answer your question, Carl, they'll be better this week. I think they will be. They got one game under their belts. And while the Jets are playing good football, Aaron Glenn's a good coach. They will be fundamentally sound. Their process will be good. They won't make mistakes. You know, you saw what happened recently. The kid that fumbled the ball, they released him the next day. So if that doesn't send a message to you, I don't know what does. But I do think they will play better. The one that I'm worried about is overall how, you know, as a former player and the euphoria and what you feel in winning a game like that, you know, making sure that your football team is up for this game and you're not in a lull because of the amount of energy that you spent beating the Ravens the other night. You know, you don't want to have that letdown. And, you know, I say it all the time, it's just human nature. Unfortunately, we're all human and things like that happen. Even though we don't want it to happen, it happens. So we got to make sure that we play with the same type of energy against the Jets because they are capable of giving us a hard time. And remember last year, you know, or 2 years ago when Aaron Rodgers goes out, they still found a way to beat us. So you got to take them seriously. They're a good football team. Just some numbers from the Bills as far as things go. And real quick, let's go back to the Jets. Defensively, we talked about Fields only having one sack. Josh Allen was only sacked one time, had 112 rushes, 12 rushes, 48 yards, 4.0 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns. Jets defense had 4 sacks on 30 attempts. The rushing defense only gave up 53 yards on 20 attempts. This is a formidable defense. But there are plays to be made, and I think it's in the passing game. And then hopefully you can get James Cook after a 13 for a 43-yard, 1 touchdown performance, rushing it, 5 receptions for 58 yards, get him cooking again and all that. But the thing that was nice to see again, besides Jackson Halls, was the Kincaid deal. So how this game goes, I think the Bills are going to have to get back to fundamentals on defense, man. Communication is the biggest fundamental. They've got to talk. They've got to do better in that aspect. Because I think you're seeing now, okay, that the Bills understand that the style of player they have up front on defense is they need to move them, they need to stun them, they need to bring 5-man pressures and all those things. They're not afraid to bring the heat anymore. And I think you saw that first series and a couple other times where they brought pressure, how good it did. Also, you got to look at the offense. Probably not the offense we'll see to start the game this week because they played from behind most of the game. So there'll be some changes there. But I expect this team to play better because everybody now has a game under their belt. And they've found a way to beat Baltimore. And the first game of the season is against, you know, arguably one of the best, if not the best team in the league right now. And we just beat them in the way we beat them. So that's good. I appreciate them doing that. I don't know how the hell they did it, but they did it. And it's amazing when a defense, like one side of the ball, the defense can have such a rough game, you know, one play, you know, cause one fumble, make 1 3 and out. And next thing you know, you know, you got a chance because 17's going to go down and win the game. So good stuff there. But anyway, just a quick overview of the Jets, quick review of the Ravens game. Here's what's going to happen next week, folks. We're going to change the format a little bit. For the longest time, I've had people ask me all the time. They're like, "Hey, you played. Give me your viewpoint. What's a player's viewpoint of this? What's the player's view in the locker room after a game like the Ravens? You know, what's it like when you come back in a game like this? What's it like when you're on the side of the ball and struggling so much? You know, all these different questions you would ask somebody." And I'm like, you know what? Well, maybe since everybody wants to hear it, we'll talk about it. So we're gonna preview the games. We'll probably talk a little bit about the week before, but we're gonna do it more from a 7 days to Sunday kind of view. So we're gonna kind of take a view of it from all aspects of it, kind of a player view. Zig Fergassi from Sirius XM Radio, who's a good friend of mine. Zig's been on since the inception of Sirius XM. Actually, back then it was just Sirius, and then before they merged. But he's been part of satellite radio on the NFL channel since the inception of it. And Zig has agreed he's going to come over and do the show with me. So I'll have a co-host, and we'll kind of steer it as far as, kind of the view from a player side of it. What do you see here? What did you feel when Ed Oliver caused that fumble, and what did you feel when you saw a guy like Prather that came off the street that, at 47 years old, was there for less than 72 hours, kicks a game-winning field goal against one of your biggest rivals that you go against in the AFC, all those things. So I'm sure there'll be a name change. There'll be a format change, but I think it'll be fun. But expect next week on Wednesday, and it'll be the same. And actually what we're going to do is, because of Zig's schedule, we're going to go to probably a taped format. So the show will be available at like 6 and 7 in the morning, something like that. Whenever we can get it up on Wednesday morning, so you can have a chance to watch it at your luxury, watch it all day, and then check it on the podcasting networks as well. And then when we can, we'll have some live shows as well. But that's how we're going to start it and everything else. So still be here Wednesday, still be talking good stuff. It'll just be a little bit different. It'll be Zig and I, and I'm looking forward to doing it. So as always, folks, hit the like, hit the subscribe. I appreciate you. Thanks for as always for watching and listening, and we don't take you for granted, man. We appreciate the support, and this has been a lot of fun, not only reconnecting with old teammates, but getting to know a lot of you guys just through social media and the show and everything else, and I appreciate it. So thanks very much. As always, folks, much love. Go Bills.
I'm still the same damn kid from Oklahoma. Same old dreams hanging off my shoulders. Wishing and waiting on a shoe.